Is this the dagger?
G'day guys, JB here. Well, it's been a minute, but we are back not only on my YouTube channel here, JB's NBA, but we are also back with a Legends profile video. Again, it has been quite some time since we've been able to deliver a video not only on this channel, but certainly a Legends profile video. With the NBA season having wrapped up 2 months ago, it has been just a little while since I've been able to get any content up. A change in work circumstances and a few other things. Just obviously taking priority at the moment, but we are back and we are willing to get back into it. Of course, previous episodes have seen the late, great Dennis Johnson, the legendary Kevin McHale, arguably the greatest rebounder of all time, Dennis Rodman, one of the most underrated defensive bigs, and certainly 2 of them there, in fact, in Ben Wallace and Dwight Howard. A legend of the early era of the NBA, Paul Arizin, one of the Boston Celtics' best clutch shooters of all time, Sam Jones, another underrated defensive big and a great athlete in his own mind, Nate Thurmond, and of course, Bob Dandridge, one of the leading figures of the NBA and a couple of championship successes in the 1970s there. Of course, today, though, as you can see on the screen here, we have another defensive legend. We have another guy who was a real key cog in the success of a really great championship team, and certainly a key cog in the all-time success of that franchise, the Philadelphia 76ers in general. Bobby Jones, a legend towards the end of the ABA and certainly a legend of the Philadelphia 76ers, one of the great defenders in league history, and certainly a guy that many people sleep on, let fly under the radar, don't really consider. And I think certainly when you look at his entire career arc from debut to Hall of Fame enshrinement, that is reflective in the broader basketball community. But enough about that. Let's get into it. Let's look at this episode of Legends Profile and let's look at Bobby Jones. One of the most underrated defensive players of all time, let's take a look at the career of Bobby Jones. He's a 1-time NBA champion, an 8-time All-Defensive First-Team selection, a 1-time All-Defensive Second-Team selection, a 1-time Sixth Man of the Year, and a 4-time All-Star. In the regular season, he played 774 games, averaging 26.1 minutes per game. He averaged 11.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, 2.4 assists, 1.4 steals, and 1.3 blocks on 1.8 turnovers. He shot 55% from the field. He did not make a 3-point attempt in his career, and he shot 78% from the free throw line. In the playoffs, he played 125 games, averaging at 27.4 minutes per game. He averaged 11.6 points, 4.9 rebounds, 2.3 assists, 1.1 steals, and 1.2 blocks on 1.6 turnovers. He shot 53.5% from the field, did not make a 3-point attempt, and he shot 80.9% from the free throw line. In the NBA Finals, he played 16 games, averaging 28.6 minutes per game. He averaged 11.4 points, 5.6 rebounds, 2.4 assists, 1 steal, and 1.6 blocks a game on 1.5 turnovers. He shot 53.8% from the field, did not make a 3-point attempt in the NBA Finals, and shot 74.4% from the free throw line. Known as the Secretary of Defense, Bobby Jones is another player whose induction into the Naismith Hall of Fame was well overdue at best. The fact of the matter is that had Jones achieved the same level of success he did on the defensive end on the flashiest side of the ball, his credentials as one of the greatest players of his era, let alone all time, would have been set in stone well before his induction in 2019. This is even more evident when you consider that on the 1982-83 Philadelphia 76ers, a team many consider one of, if not the greatest of all time, featuring Moses Malone and Julius Erving, Jones stood taller than everyone on the defensive end, proving to be as key a cog to their success as the likes of Andrew Toney and Maurice Cheeks. While not garnering a starting spot, Jones relished the reserve role and the opportunity that was presented to him, winning the league's first Sixth Man of the Year award that season and remaining a preeminent candidate for it for the length of his career. Long, athletic, with the ability to guard every area of the floor, Jones proved to be the nightmare of opposing teams as their best perimeter player tried in vain to work around a military-precise defensive game that saw Jones garner the second most first-team selections on that side of the floor in history. As is evident, Jones doesn't stick out tremendously when it pertains to statistical superiority. However, his efficiency with limited touches on the offensive side of the ball, coupled with his tremendous defensive prowess, is something that should be commended. Jones is just one of 11 players, alongside Kevin Garnett, David Robinson, Hakeem Olajuwon, Julius Erving, Anthony Davis, Ben Wallace, Chris Webber, Andre Kirilenko, Andre Drummond, and Nerlens Noel, to average at least 1.3 steals and 1.3 blocks a game. That list narrows down to Robinson, Olajuwon, Irving, Davis, Drummond, and Noel, if you just include players to shoot over 50% for their career, and narrows down to Davis, Drummond, and Noel if you just include players to average 2 turnovers or less a game. This should give you some sort of perspective of how dangerous Jones was. Not sold? The list of players to make at least 8 all-defensive first teams in the NBA only contains 7 names: Tim Duncan, Kobe Bryant, Kevin Garnett, Michael Jordan, Gary Payton, Scottie Pippen, and Bobby Jones. The best of the best, the elite of the elite. Defensively, Jones ranks right up there with these players, and it's a tough task to debate. Drafted by the Carolina Cougars in the 1973 ABA draft, and 5th overall in 1974 to the Houston Rockets, Jones started his pro career in the ABA with the Denver Nuggets after being traded for Marvin Bears, the 1975 ABA Rookie of the Year and 2-time ABA All-Star. Earning All-Rookie honours for his efforts on both ends of the floor and All-Defensive First-Team honours, Jones would prove to be a key catalyst the following season for the Nuggets in what was their final season of the ABA. Jones is a member of the only other Nuggets team to make a championship round, besides the 2023 NBA champion Denver Nuggets, as they fell short against Julius Erving and the New York Nets in 6 games. With the ABA coming to a close and Jones atop the league, there was no issues with the chairman of defence as he transitioned to the NBA. Staying with the Nuggets, Jones would see the same production that made him arguably the most valuable defensive wing in the game in the ABA show out in the NBA, making the first of a then record 8 consecutive all-defensive first teams, only to be broken by Gary Payton. Jones continued to prove that he would be up and under his opponents, averaging 2.3 steals and 2 blocks a game. Jones became the first player to average at least 2 steals and 2 blocks a game for a season. At the time of writing, he is one of 4 players to ever achieve this, along with Hakeem Olajuwon, who did it 5 times, and David Robinson and Gerald Wallace, once each. Earning 2 straight All-Star selections in his 2 seasons as a Nugget, Jones was key to Denver making the postseason in their first 2 seasons in the league. With the legendary Larry Brown holding the coaching board and players such as Dan Issel, David Thompson, and Paul Silas, the ABA expansion team pushed into the conference finals in 1977-78 before falling to the Seattle Supersonics in 6 games. In the off-season, Jones would be traded to Philadelphia along with Ralph Simpson, yes, Simpson, not Sampson, and a 1984 first-round pick, which would become Leon Wood, a former 1984 Olympic gold medal winner and future NBA referee, for George McGinnis and a 1978 first-round pick, which became Mike Evans, a 9-year NBA player of 591 games. Jones's addition to the 76ers proved to be a masterstroke of genius both immediately and into the future, as he moulded himself from a starting wing to one of the best 6 men in league history. Of course, leading from the front in Philadelphia was the man who handed him defeat in the 1976 ABA Finals, Julius Erving. Along with the likes of a rookie Maurice Cheeks and established league stars such as Darryl Dawkins, Henry Bibby, Doug Collins, Caldwell Jones and Joe Bryant, the 76ers had in place a team that not only could compete immediately thanks to the strength and defensive game that Jones brought, but had set themselves to succeed into the future. 3 key pieces to their eventual championship success were now in place. It was time to develop a winning plan. While his first season in Philadelphia didn't garner immediate success, the Sixers would see some dividends pay off and they made it through to the 1980 NBA Finals to take on the Lakers of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and a rookie named Earvin Magic Johnson. Of course, that series is known for the efforts of Magic in Game 6 to capture both the championship and Finals MVP, but it was clear that the Sixers were on the right path. Jones would prove to be the cog on the perimeter that would determine in a big way whether Philadelphia would be a champion. Offensively, as a pinch-hitting scorer, his 12 to 15 points a night weren't going to change what the likes of Julius Erving and Maurice Cheeks produced, but the efficient rate he scored them certainly showed he could be trusted with the ball. However, it was the defensive complement that he provided. Irving had the ability to play help defence, while Cheeks was always up to task at taking the opposition's best guard. 1981 saw the Sixers and MVP Irving go down in a tight battle with the Boston Celtics and Larry Bird in 7 games of the Eastern Conference Finals, and 1982 saw them again in the championship round against a Laker team that had set the tone for the decade as Jones earned the last of his All-Star selections. With both series going down to the wire and containing at the time 4 of the 5 best players in the league, it was evident that Philadelphia needed just one more player to get them over the hump. Who would that be? The reigning MVP of the league, the man many at the time saw as the best player in the league, Moses Malone. Becoming the only MVP in league history to be traded following their MVP season, Malone made his way to the city of brotherly love to complement a roster that had been on the precipice of success for close to half a decade. This made the life of Bobby Jones a lot easier moving forward. A team containing the Doctor, Chairman of the Boards and Secretary of Defence was always going to be a tough beat, but no one expected the results that followed. Malone would win his 3rd career MVP, seeing the team contain the last 3 MVP winners and 4 of the last 5. Irving would take a comfortable back seat in the offensive end, and Jones would thrive with some relaxed roles on the defensive end to secure the 6th Man of the Year award. Add in the Boston Strangler, All-Star Andrew Toney, and the 1983 Philadelphia 76ers staked their claim as the greatest single-season team in NBA history en route to the franchise's most recent championship. Winning 66 games in the regular season before delivering a 12-1 postseason record, the Sixers would destroy the Lakers 4-0 in one of the biggest routs in finals history to amend their previous championship shortcomings. Jones himself did not have the same statistical impact as he had previously had in his career in the regular season, and there was yet another decline in the postseason. But his efforts against the likes of Bernard King, Marquis Johnson, Sidney Moncrief, Magic Johnson and Jamal Wilkes proved the difference. Jones' offensive production lifted in the finals as well, in a series that saw all 5 leaders of the team in double digits. While Jones' role on the team would not diminish, his production would slowly begin a downturn following championship success. Still a viable defensive player, Jones and the crew that had built themselves into the championship contenders began to fade as the new era of the 76ers began to show their faces. Moses was beyond his status as MVP of the league. Julius Erving became the respected elder statesman of the league. Maurice Cheeks remained the standard bearer for point guards in the East. However, their best years as a unit were behind them. Jones's bench minutes would slowly diminish come the 1984-85 season to a young forward named Charles Barkley, but it was his tutelage as a senior member of the team that would help mould the round mound of rebound into one of the league's best and brightest. Jones played his final season in 1985-86, remaining one of the best reserves and defensive wings in the game and throughout league history almost 40 years later. A rightful inductee into the Naismith Hall of Fame, Bobby Jones may just be the most forgotten about player of the 1980s.